first reading begins with the story about Paul. Paul got converted. And yet when he got converted, he became changed and then he started preaching the name of Jesus. But when Barnabas brought him to the apostles to be introduced, to be made known by them, to probably bond with them, had difficulty because the disciples were afraid of him. Where is this source of fear? Now let's go back. In one of the readings in the previous 4 other Sundays, we look into the story of Paul. That Paul, after Jesus went to heaven and then the apostles started spreading the good news, they were able to convert a very good and brilliant person whose name is Stephen. And Stephen was so brilliant that any person who would try to argue with them as regards Jesus and the faith would find themselves down there in the argumentation. They lose it. And that is why this Stephen was finally cornered by the elders who really just wanted to do away with him, kill him by stoning. And so when he got cornered, this Stephen, the very first martyr of the church, stood his ground with faith, with sincerity. He continued to explain with a smile on his lips and no fear at all. And then the guys started approaching him, and then they took off their first clothing and then gave it to a young boy on the side. And this young boy saw everything, and he believed that what the elders believed and what they do is what is good. So he thought to himself, when I am an adult, I will do the same. And who was this guy? This boy was actually Saul, or otherwise known as Paul. And so when he became an adult, true enough, he became one of them. He persecuted a lot of Christians. He would chase after them. But when he was on his way to Damascus, he was riding on a horse when suddenly everything became so white and it was so blinding. He fell off his horse and he lost his sight. And then he heard a voice, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Who are you? Who are you?" And then Jesus told him everything. And so he was sent to Damascus. Inside the room, he was waiting for another person to be sent to him to cure him. And then this guy arrived. And when he knocked on the door, Paul knew this was it. When he opened, "Is it you who will be curing me?" And then the scales that covered the eyes of Paul started falling off, and then he could see. That was the conversion of Paul. But they didn't know. And that was the reason why when he was brought to the apostles, they were scared. Oh no, is this really true? What if he's just a spy? What if this is all deceit? And he is just like there to trap us, everyone. But then, Barnabas explained everything. And so they waited, and then one day they saw Paul bringing and spreading the good news, arguing with other people about Jesus. And he was in danger. He no longer was scared of anything. He defended Jesus. And so they had to take him and bring him to another place, lest he will die in their hands. The story of Paul. But what is the whole point here? In this Easter season, we are confronted with a very big bang, spoken in the second reading, that if we are truly God's, we are truly Jesus's, we are followers of Jesus, it's not limited to the words we speak. "I love you, Jesus. I care for you. I believe in you. I will follow your orders," and they just remain in our mouths. John explains it should also be in deed. Buhaton Jud. And now comes the explanation. So therefore, what is clear? Jesus says, "I did not come here for a few people. In fact, I did not even come here for the good ones. I came here for the sinners. And that is why we are now seeing the picture. The coming of Jesus, the salvation given to us, includes everybody, even when they have done something wrong, when we have done sins. And now we understand why Paul was no different. He needed Jesus. He didn't know Jesus. Someone explained to him and he changed. So our hearts are now being opened to those people we have difficulty accepting. So dito natin naunawaan, ang hirap pala talaga sundin ang pagmamahal ng Diyos. Napakadali lang naman sambitin na, mahal kita, ay mahal ko kayo, ang galing-galing, kasi mabuti yung tao sa iyo. Eh what if they're not? They mock you, they backbite you, they kill you. Can you still say, I love you to them? Impossible. The hatred we cultivate in our hearts, they actually tell us, no, stop it. So how can we do this? And then the responsorial psalm says, I will praise your name, O Lord, in the assembly of the people. What is an assembly? Assembly, coming from the verb assemble. Assemble is to gather into a group. So therefore, assembly is a gathering of people. What does it mean to praise? When we announce we're praising, it must be down into the action. And so we moved into the gospel. What does the gospel say? Why is it that we pull in other people back to the fold? Because Jesus says, I am the vine, you are the branches. Ibig sabihin, lahat tayo kasama doon sa isang puno. No one is outside. We are all part of this vine. And yet the reminder is clear, because you're part of me, what is this? You draw your strength in me, from me, with me. Lahat ng sustenance, lahat ng kailangan natin nanggaling doon. But sometimes a branch starts to think just because healthy siya, he can do away with that. Alas, kapag naputol siya, anong nangyayari? It withers off and then it's picked to be burned. Nakakalimutan natin na nandoon kaya. And that is why the second reminder, because you all belong to me, then hey, trim yourself, prune yourself, because God is the pruner. Okay, we do not know many things, so there are a lot of things growing in us, bad and good. And then, okay, God the Father knows how to prune. Ay, ito hindi maganda. And we hate it when we are being pruned. Yung inaayos tayo, naiinis tayo. Ilang beses ba tayo na pagsabihan na, uy, mali tong nangyari, dapat ganito, ganyan. Di ba nagagalit tayo, naiinis tayo? Or probably because of the approach, unsa man jud ka, buang jud ka, di mo ni makuha, mo na maglagot pud ta, di ba? Of course, ato lang i-plaster nga tay, sakto gid pagka-explain. We hate it. But actually, that's the whole point. We are being pruned. And when we are pruned, we become better. We bear fruit. Okay? Parehara gud nang nag-eskwela kay numdum ko kanang pagbakasyon na, when you teach in the seminary, ang bakasyon sa seminarista, super bakasyon gyud sa usa ka pari. Wa jud kay mabu, kanang libre jud ka. And so I didn't want, workaholic man ko, I didn't want to just be free totally. I needed to do things, so nag-enroll ko sa voice. Feeling na ako na ako'y kahibalo sa pagkanta because 10 years, 11 years sa seminary, durong kanta-kanta, halos kauno na ang microphone. But when the teacher started, the lessons and instruction, I found myself so many bad things that I needed to cut and trim. Abi ba na ako nga, okay na kaayo. Dili day pwede sa kanta nga, inana na lang vibrato kanunay. So it has to be, when you sing, go. Pagabot sa tumay, hala, kung wala ko di-correct akong kaugalingon, di na ko mag-gets. It was a constant pruning, pero pag abot sa recital, I became more confident because I became better when I was pruned. And so din nato nasabtan na one must not be afraid that we have done bad things, because when God cares for us, He prunes us. We just have to take it and become better, and we grow with Him. Buburot punta. We become robust. Di ba? Kanang nakadong kang word nga, robust. Dili lang na siya brand sa condom. Okay? Robust is a picture of health and beautiful, healthy species. So parang ganyan. And then, anong nangyari dito? When we become robust, we become a potential for bearing fruit. And when we bear fruit, we become models for others to emulate. And that's the reason why we need each other. And so who are we now to push if that person is a bad person? Ay, ayoko. Di ba ganito tayo? Kapag bad ka, huy, ayaw diha, kay mga daotan na sila. Huy, ka na nga mga babae, mga burikat, raba na, ayaw mo, dol-dol diha. Huy, ayaw mo diha, kay mga adik, raba na. What if they're actually already shouting in their destruction? They're saying, please help me. But we are too high on our thinking that we are good. We could no longer see that they are really in need. So let me close my homily with one story. I have already said this a long time ago, but I'm going to repeat it anyhow, okay? There's this kindergarten, and the teacher says, hey kids, when you go home, tell your parents or ask your parents this question: how big is a man's heart? And one kid was so excited about it that when he rushed home, he was so frustrated because his parents were not yet there. They were still at work. And so he said, oh, what will I do? What will I do? And then when he turned, he saw there was this priest praying the breviary, moving to and fro on the side of the church, and their house was just fronting the church. So he crossed the street and then went inside the gate, and then went to the priest. Father, bless. Okay. Oh, okay, what brings you here? Father, I have a question. Oh, what's it? Okay, what is it? Father, the teacher says, how big is a man's heart? And the kid was twirling his hair. And then the priest says, jokingly, well, they say that if you close your fist like this, that is the size of your heart. But it will be bigger for others because of all the cholesterol surrounding it. And then the child says, what? And then say, oh, I'm so sorry. Honestly, I do not know the measurements of a heart. But this is all I know. The heart is big enough to contain all the people we love. But hey, the heart is bigger still because it is capable of containing all the people we have difficulty loving. And this is the heart of God.